we have the industry, we have construction. And that's why we have ADB, NIB, and Bank for Construction as part of the 7-year development plan. But there were a lot of interruptions up to 1992. And from 1992 to date, we've had political stability. The question then is this: that claim that we have the capacity to govern ourselves and manage our resources, if you take all the markets that we have, take the goods market, have we been able to manage inflation? Answer is no. Take the currency market. I mean, we've been exporting value around 17. Last year was about over $17 billion. So if we net out the oil imports and the non-oil imports, you get a trade balance. But what has been worrying is the net income and the services. So the current account, take not only this current government, take it from 2015 to date, it's been negative. And that explains the depreciation of the cedi. Unfortunately, we've been chasing the people in the market as speculative. The issue is not speculative, it's a market-driven. So currency market is an issue we've not been able to manage it. Take financial and money market. What is happening is a crossroad. The DDEP had impact of about 35 billion. What we saw last year published was about 18. So it means that we are still sitting on a debt or losses, plus the second tier cocoa bills, about 5.5 billion. If you add that, and then you take the Bank of Ghana, which is the policeman, about 55. So we are talking about over 100 billion, about $10 billion. So financial market, as we speak today, there's an issue. Take the labor market. The risk there, what is happening is that our youth, doctors, nurses, teachers, they are all leaving the country. Social vices. So all the markets is not translating into the social welfare function. Food, clothing, and shelter is becoming an issue. We can't build any wealth. So given where we are, yesterday and today, reality means that something is not well. And therefore, what is behind the statement is that we have a challenge in our hand. There's a crossroad. Our developmental path is an issue. And therefore, it calls for a new way of doing things. And that is why we said, what we have, given the reality today, is it a rhetoric, a mirage, for a paradigm shift? If it is, we'll be told today, then what steps should we take to be able to build that paradigm shift? And that is the conversation. Fortunately, we have the statement. We chose them not just because they've been through, they know what, because through the agitation, we saw what happened. And part of the whole conversation today, we will be looking at also the financial market in detail, because it's a national agenda. So once Bank of Ghana is a public institution, we need to educate and then provide maybe some recommendation. So that will also be another discussion that we'll be looking at it.
Right.
So basically, we hope that we'll be able to get something from here and then take some policy brief out of it and then drive it. So on behalf of the board and management, I want to welcome, and then we hope that we'll be able to have a fruitful deliberation this morning. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Aboagye-Deborah, indeed. And this was supposed to be a surprise because we didn't advertise the leadership conversation, but it's for good reason. So as indicated, we have the statesmen here, and this is going to precede the advertised conversation because leadership is everything. It's the cause and everything else is effect. So today, for the surprise that we have for you, our guests, and our viewers as well, and listeners on 3FM 92.7, we have celebrated globally heart surgeon, former CEO of Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and also the former Minister of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation, Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng, is with us. Wonderful. I was telling him not too long ago that at some point he was the most wanted in Ghana. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. Also, celebrated economist. He's committed his life to talking and also improving on the systems and structures of this country in many, many, many ways. And we are glad to have him as our main speaker for this all-important conversation. Kwame Pienim, please, let's put our hands together for him. Thank you very much. Also, we have Dr. Nyaho-Tamakloe. He's a statesman, he's founding member of the NPP, former ambassador to Serbia. Many, many, many things he's done for this country. Please, let's put our hands together for Dr. Nyaho-Tamakloe. Thank you very much, and statesmen, for making the time to join us this morning. Dr. Nyaho-Tamakloe, when you wake up and you see what's happening in this country, how do you feel?
Good morning to everyone. With my senior like Kwame Pienim here, I don't think I have to talk a lot. To me, what is happening now is a question of leadership.
It's a question of leadership.
It's absolutely leadership. And let me say that I would like to just equate leadership in general with that of the military, because I have experience in that. A leader must, number one, know his people and know exactly what they want. He must have integrity.
Integrity.
Absolutely. Without that, forget about it.
Does the current leadership we have as a country have integrity?
Absolutely no.
The Nana-led
I say no.
They don't have integrity.
I say no. Why do I say that?
Tell me.
I'll cite an example. I will still be used in the military because I have that background experience. I've been a soldier before. In the military, we have hierarchies. Our army is a small army, but in even big armies, you see where you have field marshals and whatnot. So here I will take it from our own perspective here. When a commander, let's go to just a battalion level. When a commander of a battalion is a leader of the battalion, he knows he's a leader.
That's right.
He knows exactly what the battalion wants. He has got subordinates. We have various sessions. Battalion will give you a number of sessions will give you a company, a number of companies will give you a battalion. He knows whom to appoint at a particular place. And the most important thing is that he puts his ears always on the ground for a feedback.
True.
So if he finds you to be incompetent, he removes you immediately.
You don't see that playing out in this current leadership?
Look, our biggest problem to me in Ghana, if not in Africa, is the inability for the Ghanaian leader to say no on principle and take his pen. The culture of resignation, we don't know it.
Well, but the president has always defended his appointees, said that he reviews their performance on a daily basis, and they are doing well. They are meeting his expectations.
That's why I use the word integrity. If he has it, he will never dare. No, you are not doing well as a leader. Your subordinates are not doing well. This is it's known to every Ghanaian. Even children know that. This country is running on autopilot at the moment.
The country is running on autopilot?
Absolutely, I'm telling you. I have been, NPP is my party.
Indeed.
And I can say anything. No one can do anything to me. What I'm saying, others cannot say. And what hurts me is that the younger ones coming are not learning from the mistakes of some of the leaders at the moment, but they are copying the mistakes. I can't see how somebody leaves university. Within the first year, he gets into politics. And within less than 2 years, he amasses wealth. I can't understand it. I can't understand it. You follow me? Now, if that continues, so to me, the economic problem we have now, as I said, with Kwame here, I don't have a problem. Well, he will explain that. The economic problems we have here now is as a result of monies being siphoned out of the country
Money
by
shall be
politicians.
siphoned by politicians.
Absolutely. If they bring the money back, this country will have its peace.
Politicians are siphoning money out.
I am saying that. But you know it. You see, you journalists at times I blame me because you know the wrong thing going on and you fail to talk. Some of you have been bought by the government, not this government alone. That is what happens. That you fail to talk. People we have been at the forefront to defend this nation, who are journalists now, the way we knew them, they are totally different now.
What are the people you're talking about?
Leave that to me.
So, I mean, when because we're going to be getting into the real meat of your presentation, but when you talk about the state of the economy and where we are now, the finance minister says we have turned the corner and things are looking better. Do you see the same in your lenses?
I would have loved this session to have focused on the new trajectory that we need to take, not necessarily comment on what is happening now. But first and foremost, let me congratulate TV3 for the leadership role you are playing in terms of getting information out to Ghanaians, teaching us, educating us, entertaining us. That's leadership. When I talk about leadership, I don't only look at the top. Leadership starts from the family. There has to be leadership there. Then you go to the national level. And in every institution, the companies that we have,
That's right.
we have leaders. A leader is somebody who has a vision. You can't have too many people with vision. The leader has to have the vision. But more important, the leader has to have around him executing capacity. That the capacity to execute the vision. It's not just talk. So when you take Ghana, I pose myself the question, where did we go wrong? Because we knew, as you, Abaji Debra said in the introduction, that Ghana was supposed to be the black star, the shining light, not only for Ghana, but to light the way of all of Africa to political independence, and also to help us to light the way, the new African resurgence, to say, this is us, we can manage our affairs. You know, I think that the question you asked me, and I answer directly, I think for the first time during all this economic crisis, the Minister for Finance, in a statement to Parliament, said, we are in a deep crisis. And I think we haven't heard that before. And the crisis we are in now, we've never been there before.
We've never been there before.
Never been there before. We are bankrupt as a nation. We are having it difficult to pay salaries. Teachers, nurses who have been to allowances are not being paid. We are finding it difficult to pay government bonds. You know, banks, insurance companies are asked to put their monies in government bonds because it's safe.
Yes.
Now, it is not safe. It took us a long time to get Ghanaians to put their monies in banks. Now, you put your money in the bank, they say they folded up the bank. Your money is not there. You buy T-bills, they say we are giving you a haircut. It will take us another maybe 10 years to get confidence back into the banking system for people to put their money there. It's becoming very difficult for Ghanaians to put their monies in the banks. If you have foreign exchange, you try to bring it, they are saying, where did the money come from? We are persecuting you. Are we being holier than the Pope? So what is happening now is that once the minister said we have this crisis, he should then have asked Ghanaians, we are in a crisis. Please let's all sacrifice to see ourselves out of this mess. But he failed to do that, and that was sad.
See, but the concern of many is that the Ghanaian people have been sacrificing since this crisis over the period. They don't see the corresponding sacrifice on the part of government as well, cutting down the size of government and other recommendations that the likes of you have made in the past.
Yeah, the problem is this. We are always focusing on revenue mobilization. The African Development Bank just finished their annual general meeting, and we're saying we are going to mobilize resources, revenue mobilization. It is very difficult to increase tax revenue when companies are distressed. And a lot of our companies are distressed. Let me give you an example. If you have a company, we call something shareholders' funds. It means the monies that shareholders could have taken out as dividends, which they didn't take, they left in the company. If you have shareholders' funds of 50 million Ghana cedis, when the cedi was 5 to the dollar, that is $10 million.
Yes.
Now it's 10, it's 5. If you have a foreign partner, how do you tell him that you've lost $5 million just like this? Let's take long-term savings, which is what we need to mobilize to get the economy going for infrastructure. That's what everybody does. Pensions, they are about 40 billion Ghana cedis. 40 billion Ghana cedis at 5 to 1. That's $8 billion we are talking about.
Yes.
But 10 to 1, what is that? It's 4 billion. The teachers' fund, which I heard them set up, but now should be about a $2 billion fund. Can you imagine the teachers with $2 billion fund, what they can do? Take the cedi depreciation. It's not even $1 billion. So monies are disappearing. So if you have a foreign company in Ghana, they have an incentive to declare dividends quarterly to take their money out. Because if I take the 5 million Ghana cedis out now, or 10 million, I have $1 million. I can leave it there and bring it back when the cedi gets to 20 and bring it. And Ghanaians don't realize, when I was a young man, I bought insurance. I said at the end of 10, 15 years, I can then build a house, $100,000. At the end of the period, I got 100,000, which would have been equivalent to $100,000. The cedi has depreciated to 300 cedis to 1. What did I get? $3,000 Ghana dollars. You couldn't even build an outhouse. So if you are running an economy where there's a rapid depreciation of your currency, you are making it difficult for people to save.
Right.
You are making it difficult for your pension funds to move so that you can use it for building infrastructure, because that is a long-term savings. So we need to get back to the period. And before Ghana Beyond Aid was pronounced in this country, 2 years before, The Economist had an editorial which was talking about putting developing countries beyond aid. And they say the money that you raise, use it for 3 things. Security, make people safe with that. Then, education, how you educate your people, that is important. Health, those 3. The rest you want to build, make sure you are borrowing. And if you are borrowing, make sure there's a stream of income to pay for it, or it goes to strengthen the whole economy, the private sector, so that the capacity of the country to raise taxes and pay can be paid, so that you don't run into a place where you say you have debt. So where we are now is difficult. We've never been there before. Not too many countries have been able to have that type of debt and be able to survive. So it's very difficult. We've never been there before. And we need to sit up now and say, how can we not turn the corner? We are not probably even in the corner, on the road yet.
We are not on the road.
No.
So we talk about turning the corner. In your view. I'm going to come back to you on the financial sector, because the private sector is being seen as the only hope to lead the process of recovery from this crisis. And already they are faced with the impact of what's happening in the financial sector. So we'll come back to that. But Professor Kwabena, you were part of the first term of this administration. There was a lot of goodwill for this particular government. What went wrong?
I believe that you're talking about leadership.
Indeed.
Among other things.
Yes.
Sometimes, at some point, I just ask myself, so who are the leaders?
You ask, who are the leaders?
Yes. Who is leading us?
The president.
Yes, theoretically, yes. I mean, we vote for somebody to lead us.
Indeed.
But then you have people who have not been voted for, they have no position anywhere, but they appear to be taking decisions and deciding for us and disrespecting us. So, in some countries, there will be people behind the scenes from various backgrounds, political, ethnic, who meet and decide and say that, look, this is our country. We are not going to make it go down.
Yeah.
And therefore, they help take decisions. I mean, and I don't think we have anything like that here. A body that is supposed to do that is not doing that.
Well, that's the Council of States.
Well, I don't know whether the Council of State is doing that, So what I'm saying is that we need to identify who our leaders are, how they think, because the leaders are supposed to help us solve problems.
Is that not what's happening now?
No. See, and my brother, Dr. Nyaho-Tamakloe said it, that leadership, or maybe you did it, that we have to solve some basic problems. Food, shelter, clothing, security, defense. And then the leadership, you have to give us hope. And also prepare us for future challenges. And now we are not able to meet any of our basic needs. And we are not being preparing for future challenges that we may face. And I believe that what we have failed ourselves is technology. Because I've never seen any country that has developed without the capacity to do anything. If we import everything from toothpick to aircraft, there's no way that we can make it. So you ask yourself, why do we have universities? I mean, we talk about industrialization. I cannot see how we can industrialize without the involvement of the universities, the research institutions, the academic institutions, industry, and then commercial, for example, fabricators or something. I mean, they have these professional associations and so on. We need to mobilize them. But then, we have a situation in this country where we have decided to invest in projects, not in human beings. So that you get a feeling that Ghanaians are not needed by the leadership, because it's easy to go and borrow money to come and build a road, interchange, or something without involvement of Ghanaians. And that's what is happening. So I sit here and ask myself, look, I have a lot of knowledge. I mean, I can do many things. But who has told me to do anything? Or you, or people here? What have you been told to do? With all your experience, what you know, and so on, the universities, the capacity there, the research institutions, the academic institutions, what are their roles in the development of this country. We don't seem to need them. So why do we, even ask myself, why do we have universities? What are they supposed to do? Universities are supposed to think, identify our problems, and find a solution, whether technical, archaeology, economics, or something. So this is the way I see it. If we don't solve this technology problem, industrialization, and not define anything to be industrialization. 1D, 1F is not industrialization.
1D, 1F is not industrialization.
Not. Alone, it's not.
That's this government's trump card to industrialization.
You are setting up industries without linkages. You can compare it to what Nkrumah did.
A number of industries have been built and are thriving. You just heard the trade minister say that.
Thriving what? What are the linkages? If you are industrializing, you do things that will help you improve upon what you are doing in future, so that there will be linkages. See, the Chinese, we've forgotten what they did. In 1983, the China program 863, named after the year and month of the program. 1986, March, when 4 weapons scientists wrote a private letter to Deng Xiaoping. Like, sir, we have problems. If we don't commercialize our knowledge, if we don't research and do things and get the civilian population to commercialize knowledge, we are doomed. And so you say, okay, go ahead. And therefore, they started by setting up institutions for energy, material science, agriculture, space science, and so on. And so they got all the research institutions involved, the universities and so on, academia, to think. And everything we are seeing now is a result of what they were doing, research. Because, let me give you an example. Nkrumah set up, let's say, a glass factory in Abosu. Okay. And he knew that he was going to get the raw material, the sand from Zima, which was quite close. But he did not have the time. So if you are setting up such a factory, you have to think about fiberglass and other things. If you are thinking about the Sanyo factory in Tema, for example, you just assemble radios without thinking about the next thing, building transistors and doing those things in this country. Then it is not industrialization. So if you set up a factory to process juice and you don't think about the next step, so what next?
But you see, it's one thing actually having the capabilities, and another, after you are invited to serve, being given the needed support and then the environment to be able to thrive. Because you were saying that you have a lot of capabilities. You served in government before. Now, did you have that kind of support and environment to be able to give enough of what you have? Or you would say that you were handed out of office?
No. Let me tell you, let me give you a very big example. As I said, I believe that we cannot develop if we don't have the capacity to do things ourselves. And so I came out with this idea of setting up a national foundry and machine tool center, a CNC machine tool center, computer numerical control machine tool center.
Okay.
That will give you the capacity to build spare parts, machine parts, or reverse engineer things. And then the foundry to do, if you are constructing road, for example, all the drainage covers are imported. But these are low-tech things that can be developed.
This was done while you were minister?
That is one of the projects.
I see.
But then I left government and the project has come to a standstill. Some of the equipment that we imported are now roasting in some warehouse at Atomic Energy. The place is weedy, nothing has
been left to rot.
Left to rot. And I can cite many examples. So you need people to buy into it. As I said, they may not see the need for it, but it's easy to import drainage covers for roads or telecom things that may give people money. But then we need to develop, because the poverty gap is a technology gap. The poverty gap, if we don't bridge that gap, we can't make it. And the gap between us and them is widening all the time. And that is why I said we need the universities, we need the research institutions, we need the trade people, professionals, as I said, the fabricators. I mean, if we take a grape, for example, there are Ghanaian fabricators who can fabricate a lot of things. And then I also know Ghanaians who have PLC, the programmable logic control, who can automate things. So it's a question of not being selfish, not being greedy, but using the money to develop Ghanaians and not in projects. And the Ghanaians will build these things ourselves.
You see the element of greed and selfishness in leadership now.
Of course.
It's a lot of greed.
Greed.
See, let me acknowledge Mr. Setekwe, this former finance minister. He's joining us on Zoom. Mr. Setekwe, good morning. We'll rectify the sound. But Dr. Nyaho-Tamakloe, Professor Kwabena Boateng made the point about who
good morning. Can you hear me, please?
leading this country. And whether it's the president or otherwise. Because the president is elected, but then you have people around him, as he put it, who disrespect the likes of you. Is it the same experience you share?
I agree with the Prof. Absolutely. That's why I said everything depends on the leader. Look, when we had independence, I was a kid, I remember, but what we were taught was that apart from the Union of South Africa, but then South Africa was in the hands of the white people, the other highest per capita in Africa was Gold Coast, Ghana. There's an economist here, if I'm telling lies, you should say, which follows this country had resources and was a rich country. But as he's saying, if you don't have people, you get them into a room and they think strategically. So you plan towards something. This is exactly what Prof is saying. For the future, we have been an independent country for almost 60-something years now. What have we got independent almost on the same day with Malaysia. Go to Malaysia now. Go to Singapore. It's all the leader. The leader. If the leader knows what he's about, you will see progress. But if he doesn't know what he's about, then you see these hang-ons, which we have in this government. As I put it, you don't even know what they do. Theirs is to look for money out of the country. Get money out of the country.
And
that is the biggest problem facing this nation now.
You're saying the president doesn't know exactly what to do?
Look, I talk about leadership. If the leader is just like a commander, if you have a commander who is no good, your troops will be slaughtered.
Is that what's happening now?
Absolutely. The commander is no good.
The president is not good.
If the commander were to be good, if a minister goes wrong, he must have that strength and call him to really leave his government. We have had a lot of infractions in this country. You know it. Who has been sacked?
We're expecting some sacking and reshuffle.
You see, the way I am saying, and I say this on authority, I know quite a lot of what is happening in this country. Now, if the monies that have been stolen out of this country are brought back, at least we shall get some more. And what Professor Boateng is saying, I believe strongly that if we are able to get the academia and all these people to do strategic thinking, and even our young people, those in even secondary school, in certain countries, they are taught how to think strategically, to create something.
Yes.
Do we have it here?
You see strategic thinking in this.
You don't build a nation where look, Nkrumah started well. I must say that. As he said, Nkrumah set up certain factories, but he was advised. Listen to me carefully. Once again, Kwame is here. Kwame is my senior. And he has experience. I think after Kwame, I don't think there has been anybody. He was the youngest principal secretary we had in this country. If I'm telling lies, he's here. Youngest, in his 20s. Now, if you have a leader who knows exactly what he wants for the country, the moment you are appointed a leader, you must know what really you want for that country. Just as I say, like the military, you are given a target and you pursue the target. You follow me? But here, it is a free-for-all. And what hurts me is that we've seen leaders of this tradition of ours, the new patriotic party, who really were leaders. I can give an example. Here's one example. B.J. Daruja. I mean, these are people who were selfless. Do we have it now?
Do we have it now?
We don't have it. If you want to hear from me, I say, we don't have it. And until we get such people, and the most pathetic thing is that those we are so-called, maybe I might call them as successors, would rather destroy this country completely. Because their interest is to get money and property.
I mean,
not to develop
the younger
a nation.
politicians?
I said those we have now. Politicians
of today.
Absolutely.
How would they?
You don't build a nation this way. But the problem is an African problem. I won't even say it's Ghana alone. An African problem. What leadership does is to siphon money out of the country, out of the continent. Look at what is happening in Niger now. You follow me? Mm-hmm. So-called ECOWAS, they know the causes of the problem. That when you have a leader who would not like to leave power, when you have a leader who would like to manipulate elections, these are the results. And until we start thinking like mature people, there will be coup d'etats after coup d'etats. That's all.
We've seen what happened in the case of, for instance, talk about appointment and then also the appointees of this administration and the president not taking action even when there is that evidence of non-performance. Why is the president not reshuffling or sacking ministers from where you sit? Because you are a member of the party, a founding member for that matter. You know what we don't know.
I'm not a suspended member. But I will talk. I'm a founding member. Just like Kwame is. Without Kwame PNN, he's still. I'm surprised. In fact, I came here to listen to him. By your advert, he was a key speaker. I came here to listen to him. So when you called me to sit there, I was really surprised. Look, this is a man. I was in prison with him together. Before I joined him, he has already served about 8 to 9 years in prison. Just because of this country, Ghana. When we were in prison, I want to cite an example. This gentleman wore prison uniform. That's a prisoner. Then one day he called me. I remember very well. Myself and I think late Colonel Chumog, I always forget his name, who was once a leader in this country. He was with a champion school. Mm-hmm. They said, oh, he's doing something. We should come and have a look. So we came out with him outside the prison wall. Not knowing before even then, he's had a plantation of pineapple. This same man, listen to me carefully. Plantation of pineapple. Why is a prisoner?
Whilst in prison.
And the records are there. If I'm telling lies, why is a prisoner? Pineapples, cassava. Because the prison had, outside the prison wall was huge land.
Which prison is it?
In Sawam.
In Sawam.
Now, Kwame then moved on to start poultry farming. I mean, honestly, I thought he was joking. Within less than 6 months, fowls for the market. He served Ghana Airways chicken to be used on aircrafts. You see? So when we got out of prison, and this man wanted the leadership of the party, I back him because I know what he can do for this country. And it hurts me. There are two people in this country I've studied carefully, himself and late Kojo Banrido. It's pathetic that Kojo Banrido has died. These two people, you see leadership qualities in them. Now, I remember I backed Kwame strongly, not myself alone, and others. I told him, I know this man. I was in prison with him. Even in prisons, he showed leadership skills. So I don't see why I shouldn't back him now. We back him. Finally, the case went to court, Supreme Court, and he was refused to leave this country. A man who was sentenced to prison because he wanted to save this country from the hands of soldiers. So you can see that we don't know what we are about in this country. It's as simple as that. To really lose such a person will tell you that we don't know where we are going. People just talk. I mean, this sort of loose talk in this country, that's what is happening. Everybody is just talking. But when we want people who can think strategically, plan for now, the future, and especially beyond the future. That's why the whites are always ahead of us. They have a thinking machine. We don't have it.
So earlier you talked about the confidence in the financial sector and how that was impacted by the cleanup exercise, which you have eloquently stated your position about how it was carried out. And then we still have people's monies locked up as a result of that exercise as we speak. Also, then it led up to this DDEP, and which was also impacted on the financial sector confidence. And then what's happening with the central bank right now, at the end of the year 2022, posting over 60 billion cedis loss. Do we have a financial sector now?
Let me go one step back to leadership. You know, there's a vision and then executing. Nyaho was talking about our experience in prison. When Nkrumah built in Sawan prison, he had a hospital, a clinic there. That clinic was left dormant. When Nyaho was brought there, he's a medical doctor. I said, Nyaho, we are going to reactivate this clinic. He said, stop your madness. I'm thinking about myself. I said, you can't think about yourself. We have a lot of prisoners who don't have access to medical attention. He agreed. I got the Catholic sisters. They brought the equipment, refurbished the place, brought us medication. There was a young woman who was in the female prison, a nurse. We brought her, and then Nyaho took over, and the people were there. So see, if Nyaho was not there, and the lady from the other side was not there, we couldn't have executed that.
Sure.
The poultry farm that we did, there were prisoners from Côte d'Ivoire who knew how to prepare chicken. So when we grow them, they would then do it oven ready, and then where Ghana Airways was exporting it, Kingsway was selling it. So you need...
Indeed. Let's put our hands together. It's worth it.
You need the executing capacity around you, not just a vision. We are talking about moving Ghana forward. I got MasterCard Foundation to give us $250,000, and we brought Ghanaian technologists from outside, and 50 of them from outside, 50 from here. We call it Bridging the Technology Gap. I needed a minister to guide us. I called Professor Premfo Boateng. All the preparatory meetings we had, some in my office in the house, he was there. The meetings, not just ministers who come and open and run away. He was there. This idea of building foundries, it's clear that when you are digging the gutters, the diggers, we can make them here. He talked about the Chinese, Deng Xiaoping. They set up the Chinese Academy camps for agricultural machinery science. So they started they were making the machines. We tried to bring them here into Ghana. They were prepared to help us. Bring it here. They said, we'll bring the equipment, get your engineers, and then we work together. You know, the leadership is not just at the president. He has to have the vision and then go. One of the things I want us to talk about is that the problems we are trying to solve in Ghana, we are solving them from the air. When you go to Bank of Ghana, the understanding is that there are always three governors. There will be a microeconomist to look at the bigger picture, inflation and so forth. You have a lawyer to look at the bigger side. Then you have a banker to be able to liaise with the bank to see what is wrong. You see, when you are a referee, it doesn't mean that you know how to play the football. So you need an operator with you to say, this is where we need to go. Two of the best leaders I've worked with, in terms of man, Kofi Annan, best in delegating authority. We say, when you're a leader, you don't micromanage. You micro-monitor, but leave the people to work. Another good one, George Hammond, who set up what has become UMB. You know, they give their people the jobs and then you supervise. What Professor said about what he was trying to set up, you know, the people in the ministry, those people down there, they should not allow it to die. That's why we had what we call permanent secretaries. We became principal and chief director. The idea was to have the institutional memory.
Right.
Once you have the institutional memory, even if that thing goes, you go. And when I was in the Ministry of Finance, one of the guys told me, when I was rushing around, he said, Kwame, one of the jobs we do that you have to learn is to have to stop politicians from destroying the country with stupid ideas.
Stop politicians from destroying the country with stupid ideas.
We block them. So when you come, you give the job to them, they say, this is bad. Minister, what is happening on this project? Oh, it's receiving attention. It means it's getting close to the dustbin. They are not going to implement it. So they are the ones who are supposed to be telling you what was in the past. So what is happening in the, I'll call them the regulators, I think.
Yes.
I don't like criticizing Bank of Ghana because it was the only reliable, respected institution we have in Ghana. All the institutions were gone. You know, is that the domestic debt exchange crippled the banks. Their minimum capital is gone. They are impaired. And you say, I'll destroy them first and then set up a financial stability fund to come and raise them up. Why kill them first before you resurrect them? You know, so for the first time, the IMF program that we have, in the past, immediately you announce the program, things stabilized. Investors realized, oh, there's a big boy in the room. The children will stop misbehaving. We did not go to Eurobond to borrow to finance recurring expenditure. When President Kufuor and Paul Akwa led, and Banbedu came, the South Mafo were there, to go to, it was to go and borrow, because when the government borrows, the government is supposed to be safe. So if the government can borrow at 5%, it means the bigger companies in Ghana can go and borrow maybe at 6-7%. And our small savings left here will be left to the other companies so that interest rates don't go sky high. So now other ministers came in and they decided, oh, we can always go and borrow. To do what? To finance chop money. You don't borrow money to finance chop money. You borrow money to increase the assets and the wealth of the company. So we have a problem. And then the regulators, they what are called, you know, regulatory forbearance. What does it mean? It means if you are civil aviation in Ghana, you are telling the Americans, these planes that I have and I've regulated, which are flying into America, they may not be all that well maintained. The pilots may not be that good, but give us time and we'll come back later. They say, don't fly into America. The regulators, Bank of Ghana, insurance, they are supposed to tell us that when we invest there in this bank, they are safe. And say regulatory forbearance, you put the regulations aside. Why put them aside? If they were not necessary, then we don't need the regulators. If the minimum capital doesn't make sense, then push it aside. So I was very surprised the way we are packaging this. For the first time, the Western countries sat there and said, when you give a haircut to our citizens, give a haircut also to your citizens. The moral equivalence is wrong. When the depreciation has meant that all my assets in terms of dollars have been reduced by 50%, the bondholder, he's going to get his money. That bondholder, he calculated the risk he was prepared to take to give minor money, and the interest rate reflected that. And he's going to get his money in dollars. I'm getting mine. See, the 50% already gone. So there should have been no moral equivalent. We shouldn't have agreed. And Ghana and Nigeria refused to agree to the framework. But immediately we went on our knees when they say we are negotiating within that framework. You take money from pensioners and say, I'm taking it. What has the pensioner done to reduce? And the solution that is coming, everything, we are not going to be paying any of those debts until Nana Akufo-Addo is no longer president, until the Minister of Finance is no longer president. What is that? And my generation, who are borrowing all this money, and yours, you may not even be paying, your grandchildren will be paying. It doesn't make sense. We should sit down and say, how are we doing this? How can Cocoa Board incur these debts when all they are doing is just taking cocoa from farmers and selling it abroad? What has Cocoa Board got to do with building roads? And most of these companies that are having problems are building new head offices. We have come to this state of government by procurement, and not just this government alone. All governments. So spending has become development. The more projects you come, the more you spend, the more you buy from outside, the better. As Frimpong Boateng is saying, to develop in people, let the people know what is done. How much will you get? You won't get 10% of what? 100,000 Ghana cedis. But if you are employed, so we should cut this procurement, government by procurement. That's everybody is interested. The incentive system we put in this system in the country don't work. The incentive system means that you're a young man, you're ambitious, join political parties. You don't have to have any experience. You come. What is talking about the military? You have a target. No minister is given any target.
Right.
And the president's job, like all chief executives down the line, you know you are not going to do the work. So your job is how to get good, competent people with integrity. And we use the word integrity loosely. When somebody has integrity, you won't even approach him to give him an envelope. You'll be scared. And we've had it before. Between 1979 to 1991, there was minimal corruption in this country. People were scared. Rollins may slap you. So it's not this government alone we are talking about. We are talking about when you want to become president, your job is, you are not the executor. Your job is to find good people, how to identify good people to work for you. That's the job. and then motivate them, incentivize them to do the work for you. But this is what we need to, how do we start from here? I think in my village they say, the more the more they are carrying about mobile. So forget about the past. Let's learn lessons from the past and say, how do we take the lessons to move ahead? I used to tell Frimpong Boateng, his project, if he had brought his project during the time of any civilian rule, it would never have happened.
You mean the
cardio center.
Cardiothoracic center?
Yeah. I mean, Rawlings went to run this thing. Do it. Forget about the rules. Just do it. I was trying as chief executive to improve the price of cocoa. Farmers were cutting their cocoa trees and growing cassava. Why? Because we were paying them 20% of the FOB price. I went to Rawlings when he came. He came to meet me as chief executive. He was there. And I said, farmers are cutting their cocoa farms to grow cassava. He said, why? I said, the price we are telling them is no good. And you know how he talks. Mm-hmm. He uses words explicitly deleted and said, if my father was doing that, I also asked him to cut it down. What price do you want? I said, we should start with increasing the price by 30%. Go and do it.
That's all.
20 minutes. It had taken me 3 months, 6 months with civilian governments and the governments that were there. That was a leader. Go and do it. Then the execution starts. So you can have a vision, but the vision needs executors around you to implement. When you say Ghana Beyond Aid, what does it mean? It means we are using our own people. Fine. Ghana Beyond Aid, what does minerals? We have lithium. Are there Ghanaians abroad who knows how to use lithium? The guy who is helping Botswana do their lithium project is a Ghanaian professor of chemistry. Are we using him? In spite of Ghana Beyond Aid, we are giving lithium resources to Atlantic people to come. They are going to dig the death. And they pride themselves that it's near the shore, the port. They will put it in a thing. Nothing has changed from gold when we're taking the thing and taking outside.
Great point. Please, let's put our hands together for our guest in studio. And Mr. Setekpe is former finance minister. He's been on listening to you all. So I'll come back to you. But Mr. Setekpe, thank you for joining us. Now, we have the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry also joining us in studio. In fact, they partnered with us all through this conversation, and other private sector players as well. Now, we see what's happening to the financial sector and ultimately to the lender of last resort, being the Bank of Ghana. One of the explanations they've given is that they had to take this 50% haircut to save the economy. Other than that, things would have gone haywire to serve as a residual. Is that a justifiable defense for this over 60 billion cedis loss the Bank of Ghana has posted?
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you can hear me this time.
Yes.
I would say that it is not a good defense. The reason I am saying that it is not a good defense is that if you recall, much of the non-performing loans, which occurred, were due to the Doomsaw era, and we did ESLA. In fact, before we left office, we had started paying the energy sector debts with the ESLA amount. As we speak, ESLA has brought in 33 billion Ghana cedis. By 2026, it is expected to bring in 66 billion Ghana cedis. It is the collateralization of ESLA that made it impossible to pay the energy sector debt, including IPPs, and that is why we had the banking sector collapse. In fact, to demonstrate, we had used ESLA to repay, to refinance occasion, you would also recall that under the Mahama administration, we achieved zero financing. That means that the government did not borrow from the central bank. Indeed, under the Treasury single account and under the book building, that is the government bonds, we were able to finance, our budgets without borrowing from the central bank for the first time, even though we were allowed to use 5% of previous revenues, to support the budget. This was part of the century agreement leading into the IMF program. Let me so it is clearly not justified to see the bank where it is now. It is, and let me come back to that. But before that, let me state also absolutely that of the bonds that we issued, and by the way, I should have acknowledged my seniors, who are there. I'm sorry for not doing that earlier on. But let me state that we did not use any of the bonds that we issued for consumption. Let me give 3 examples. We have Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, which was to continue with the model that we use, to finance Terminal 3.
And we apologize.
That's technology.
There's technical hitch in there. We'll rectify that with Mr. Setekwe and get a bit more into some of the issues that he was talking about. But if you just joined us, this is the 3Business TV 3 Thought Leadership Series. We're talking about the state of affairs of the economy and then also this economic self-governance that we're talking about or we aspire for as a country. Is it a myth or a reality? What has to change? What has to give for us to be able to realize this self-governance that we're talking about? So if you look at the various sectors, for instance, I mean, we've talked a lot more about the financial sector, even with the medical field where you are, nurses and doctors are living in droves out of this country. You talk about the agri sector. I mean, we import over $400 million worth of tomatoes from Burkina Faso, over $21 million worth of onions from Niger. Something is happening there right now. And Burkina had their own fair share of instability sometime last year. I mean, do we own this economy? If not, what has to change?
It's a commitment to Ghana. And we've heard examples about people who were in prison, but they were committed to Ghana. Mm-hmm. My worry now is that when young people begin to lose hope in the system, then we are on a very dangerous path. We have to have a situation where young Ghanaians will have hope in this country. That they will say, look, at least things are not too good, but I think that they will be better.
You speak to a lot of young people. Do you feel that they have a sense of hope now?
No. And I talk to my children. I mean, they are well educated and so on. They say, brother, we think that this country is on the wrong footing. And that pains me because throughout my life, I worked for this country.
They tell you the country is on the wrong footing?
Yes. And that pains me. And, that they are not prepared to sacrifice as I did, and we can't blame them. So the point is that we must restore hope to these young people. Otherwise, they have dreams they can no longer afford to postpone. Young people of Ghana have dreams they can no longer afford to postpone if we don't help them to realize those dreams. We talk about leadership in agriculture. It's very painful. And the thing is that we have people in CSIR. I'm talking about research institutions. Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, the amount of work that we've done in agriculture, the universities, and then some private people. But we don't use them. And sometimes it's so painful. when I was minister, I went to Bunso. This is where we kept our germplasm, the things, the plants that we grow, the things that we want to keep for posterity. That's where we keep them. At some point, they did not even have money to pay for electricity because we have to cool these seeds and plants and so on. And ECE was going to turn the thing off. So we have to go and find money to do that. Atomic Energy had conducted some research on how to manage malaria. You know, they have irradiated some mosquitoes and we're about to release them so that when they mate with others outside, they will not spread the mosquitoes. But then they could not pay the electricity bills. And again, somebody went and shut off that thing and destroyed everything. So the thing is that we must know where we are going, where we are, and the effect of our inaction. Let me give another example. Not too long ago, we had a problem with one of our FPSO, this oil production. You know, when we have big pipes and you want to connect them, there's something we call an O-ring, which you need to seal the thing. One of them got, or some of them got spoiled, and we had to send them to one of the Scandinavian countries for about 3, 4, 6 months before we could get them back. If we had a machine tool center that we had planned, it could have been done in days, 2 days. So this is how we are losing and spending money on things that are not supposed to be. But this thing pains me. We should develop the capacity to do things. Young people are so gifted. I mean, I work with people, fabricators, and people who can do automation. As I said, Ghanaians can do Gary processing machine, this oil, this, but then we need some people to put some electric motors in between to automate the system. And there are Ghanaian firms doing that. But nobody knows them and nobody cares about them.
Is it that we're having the interventions but not targeted the right way? Because anytime this comes up, government will refer to certain interventions and policies they put in place, the GEA, Ghana Enterprise Agency, and formerly MBSSI, and those other ones, NEIP and others. They will refer to that. So what's wrong?
But then if you want to refer to them, give them the resources. Let's say AGI or any other organization. Give them the resources. But then politicians will want to be in charge. If it's about importation, if it's about this, procurement, they want to be in charge. And not the agencies that are supposed to implement these things.
Why is this the case? The politician want to be in charge?
It's money. It's as simple as that.
I mean,
because see, look, importation increases. I don't want to go into that here because my uncle is here. At least increase price by about at least 20%. Right. But if the things are done here, you will not get those things. So the point is that the poverty gap is a technology gap. And Mr. PNM helped us in a way by getting the MasterCard Foundation to give us the resources to bring Ghanaian scientists together, researchers. We had a very good meeting in Peduase. The president was there to commission it. And I was so hopeful that for once we could get Ghanaians from outside, Europe, America, Asia, and those within to plan with the Association of Ghana Institute of Engineering, Ghana Institution of Engineering, drew up this plan, and I was very hopeful that, look, now you're on the path towards doing things. And I sold this idea to the president. We are going to do Agenda 1111, going to buy Agenda 1111. But then every piece of equipment is going to be imported. We may be able to put up houses, but then there will not be hospitals because there will be no instruments, the nurses are running away, and so on. So we wanted to develop the capacity to build some of this medical equipment. We may not be able to build an X-ray machine, but if it's a forceps, if it's a scalpel blade, if it's this, we should be able to do them. And that will account for at least about 40% of what we use here. You know, we have rubber, you know, in the Western region, and we are still importing things, condoms, catheters, rubber, car, wiper blades, engine seats, and so on. I mean, there's so much we can do, and we are so gifted. So let us look inward, train people, spend more money on people instead of on projects. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do the projects. But what's the point in building very nice road, interchange? What runs on it? Apart from passengers and charcoal and what do we have run, on our roads? We need to see tractor parts moving from here to an assembly plant. We need to see things, manufactured things, somebody building machines moving from one place to the other for assembly and so on. We need to see these things so that we know, yes, we are moving on. Yes.
Dr. Nyaho-Tamakloe, what has to change, really? Because we all admit that all is not well going forward.
I think, once again, leadership.
Leadership has to change.
You see, let me give you a simple example. In the US recently, when they tried Trump, listen to me carefully, they tried Trump. When he won the elections, I was amazed though, but they gave him that chance. The next elections, they voted him out, even though he wanted to steal the elections. And he's going to court because of that now. Can it happen here?
You think it can happen here?
Oh, God. I said the man stole, he attempted, in fact, it was an attempt to steal the elections. As I talk to you now, the case is in court.
Yes.
And the law is going to deal with him. Can that happen in this country?
You think it can happen in this country?
Oh, look, I've been around for some time. Even though Kwame is my senior, I always refer to him because he's my senior. Look, I have my doubts at times about even the sort of judicial system that we have here. I'm telling you, look at the way the U.S. judicial system operates. Indeed, Trump have asked that the judge must step down or something. It won't happen. It will never happen. But it can happen here. First in the history of this country, we've had elections in this country. When Jerry John Rawlings, some of us went to jail because of him. We've had elections in this country when Kutu Acheampong was in power. Kutu wanted a referendum. And he organized the whole thing in such a way. He thought he would be listened to by, what's the name of the judge, the electoral commissioner? Aban, eh?
Aban. Yeah.
Aban. He thought Aban would play ball with him. Recently, Kutu Acheampong is just about 25 years ago. Aban refused. And Kutu chased him right at the electoral commission. He has to jump a wall, the whole judge. There are things in this, we have seen things. People dying because of elections. Now, most of the people I talk to, they say they are not interested. They are not fed up. And that is painful. And when that vacuum is created, something has to fill it. And what it is, you know it.
I don't know. You know it.
You ask them. You see, we are now treading on a very, very dangerous path. I've been saying it. I've said it time and again. Where we are going to is dangerous. People should start talking. But Ghanaians are not talking. I have a feeling they are not suffering. If they were to be suffering, they will talk. They will come out. I'm not calling for a coup d'etat. I know what coup d'etat is. I've been a soldier before. And what coup d'etats can do. They really don't build a nation. But if you give them the opportunity, they will come.
Dr. Nyaho-Tamakloe, and this is the 3Business Thought Leadership Series, talking about leadership, which is everything, dovetails into issues of business and finance, and yes, one sentence. I'm going to go for a quick, we are not ending. We're going for a quick break, and then you...
Okay.
Yes, so please hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
And we'll have another guest joining the panel here with me. So stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Professor Godfrey Bobkin will be